Hey everybody, I'm going to walk through this problem. So let's start out by writing out some simple examples. So you're given a number n, and you want to print out the total number of factors. So let's see how I would do it on paper. So let's say we are given n equals 10. So what would I do? I would figure out what all the factors are. So let me just write them out. We've got 1 is a factor, 2 is a factor, 3 is not a factor, 4 is not a factor, 5 is a factor, and then your next factor is 10. And then the number of factors here are 4. Let's look at one more. And so you got n equals 7. So here we have 1 is a factor, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are not factors. Your next factor is a 7. And so you got 2 factors total. Okay, so I'm convinced I think I could do this on paper. My brain knows how to do this somehow. The next thing, let's write out some pseudocode. So let's first kind of observe what we did here, in at least what I did in my head, is I iterated through all the numbers from 1 to 10 in this case. And then I checked, I asked this question, is the number a factor? Is the number a factor? Is the next number a factor? And I wrote down all the factors that were actually factors. And then I just added them up. How many are there? Okay, so first step, you could say I'm going to iterate from 1 to n. So we have that here. So let's see, you're given n. You can ignore that for now. We're going to loop through all the integers from 1 to n. We're going to check if the number is a factor of n. If yes, then we'll increment the number of factors that we have. And so here you see num factor starts out as 0, and every time we find a factor, we're going to increment the total number of factors that we have. And then at the very end, we can just print out the number of factors. Okay, so let's walk through this. Let's solve a small piece of this problem, or a simplified version of this problem. So for step 1, we're given n, and let's just say we'll print out all the numbers from 1 to n. Let's get that working. So let's use a namespace, STE, 0. We're going to declare an integer n. We'll see in that. So we're getting the input. Now we're going to iterate from 1 to n. Let's make another variable called count equals 1. And actually, let's call this possible factor. And we'll say while possible factor is less than or equal to n, we'll just print out possible factor. Put a space after it. Close this. And then we'll increment possible factor by 1. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to type in a number like 7, and we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Great. So step 1 works. Copy this, put it right here. Okay, what can we do next? Next, let's add a little bit more complexity to this. Let's say you're given a number n, and your goal is to print out all the factors of n. So let's see how we would do that. So here, we only want to print out possible factor if possible factor is actually a factor of n. So let's, so the way we can check if a number is a factor is we can say if n mod that number is equal to 0, then is a factor. So then we'll print it out. Yeah? Okay. So let's run this. Let's type in 10. And look at that. We get 1, 2, 5, and 10. So you're iterating through all the numbers 1 through 10, and you're only printing out the numbers where the modulus of n mod that number is 0. In other words, you're only printing out the factors. Okay, so I'm convinced this seems to work. Okay, now the final step. What? Where am I? Oh, I don't think I have it. Okay, see, so now we'll keep track of a count for how many factors we have so far. So to do that, we will declare a variable up here. So we'll say int num factors it'll start out at 0. Now, every time we find a factor, instead of printing it out, we're just going to increment the number of factors that we have, num factors plus plus. So every time you find a factor, right, so you find your first factor, num factors will go from 0 to 1. Next time you find a factor, it'll go up from 1 to 2. So by the end of this loop, num factors will have the correct value. So I'm going to do cout num factors. Put a little user-friendly message there. Total factors, factors, and hopefully that will give us 4 if we type in 10. Yep. If I type in 7, we should get 2. If I type in 1, we should get 1. Okay, great. So there you go. Paste this here. All right, well, I hope that was helpful.